How are you guys doing? We don't really need the mic because they can hear from the things. How's your guys' week been? It would seem as if maybe some of you guys have started school, and maybe that's why attendance isn't as great today. But I thank you guys that came.
The roads are pretty slippery.
Oh, the roads are pretty slippery. Yes, it started raining this week. Yesterday, after a lot of sunshine. That last song we were saying, "Smile While You Sing." I was taking a look. I would say number one, biggest smile was Gitza, Fratne Gitza. Who do you guys think was number two? No, it was Johnny. Johnny had the number. He was smiling the whole song. Johnny. Number three, who do you guys think?
Cornell.
No, but it was right next to Cornell. Vanya, yeah. And then after that, I would say it gets a little harder to tell, Jana and then some of the other girls, Vasa. But you know who was not smiling at all? No, Nathaniel. Are you okay, man? Okay, just checking in on you. Hoping you're doing okay. Thank you for coming. Are you tired? Are you working now? Oh, okay. You working now, or what are you doing now? Yeah, is it tough? What kind of work? Like what? Like what kind of hard work? For adults. Do you do electrical work then? No? What do you do? Oh, that's little kid work. Okay. Well, we have a lot of electricians in here. A lot of people that seem to do electrical work. That's, what our Snapchat account seems to be. What some people say, anyways. But if you guys remember, Madu sent out a nice verse this morning. Does anyone know what it was? Romans 12, 1 and 2. Which is interesting because that's also one of the passages that we're going to be going over tonight. So, see, we're just prepping you from the beginning of the day till now to really talk about this. You guys remember before we had, what's his name?
Mihai?
Oh, yes, Mihai, sorry. Fratni Mihai, we had him for 2 weeks. Before that, what were we talking about? Does anyone remember that far back? Oh, no, you weren't there. Were you? No, you were there. Not evangelizing. Anyone? No one remembers? Walking in obedience, changing. No, that was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Changing bad habits with good ones. You guys remember that? No? Okay. Anyways, well, this is kind of a continuation on that. But let me ask you this. Have any of you guys ever felt pressured to fit in? Where at? School? Why? Be with the cool kids? And what kind of stuff do you feel pressured? Oh, listen to the music. Debates? Like what? Oh. Okay. You just have to win. What else? What other stuff do you feel like? Yeah. In sports, right? Do you feel like you need to fit in when you are online, on social media, on Instagram? No, not really. That's not a thing anymore. Maybe not. But, many different times we feel like we want to fit in. Why do you think it's so hard to stand out and live differently? Why is it so hard to make the decision to not be like everyone else. It's harder to do that. Yeah. Against the flesh. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's an aspect of it. It's, you stand out. Maybe you don't want to stand out. Maybe you kind of want to fly under the radar at school, like to the point, like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to get into debates. I don't want to get into this, or, then someone asks me something I don't know how to answer. It seems like, you go to school, you hang out around these friends and stuff, and although everyone says individuality and be your own self, it seems like they're still pushing us all into one form, one mold. It's like when you make like cookie dough and you've got one of those like molds for, a cookie cutter mold, but like around Christmas time or decorations or something like that, it's just like, here, this is how you're supposed to think. Pop, 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 go, The Christian life, though, is not about blending in, but instead it's about being set apart. And that's what we're going to be looking at tonight, and how the scripture calls us to live holy. It doesn't tell us to live a weird life. So that doesn't mean to live like a weirdo outcast. It doesn't mean that we need to live a perfect life. We're not perfect. No one's perfect. But we're called to live differently because we belong to who? To Jesus and God, right? So, the theme tonight is just living different, holiness in a world of conformity. So, God calls us to be holy and set apart in how we live. What is holiness? Pure, set apart. In the Old Testament, there were bowls and like utensils and lampstands that were in the temple that were called holy because they belonged to God. So if God considers those things holy, things that are inanimate, things that are just like an object, how much more important do you think it is for us to be holy? Right? And holiness... Yeah. Yeah. And holiness doesn't mean being better than others. I don't want you guys to get that misconception, or isolating from the world. It doesn't mean I go into my little corner, I'm holy, no one touch me, I don't interact with anyone. So if that's kind of what you're thinking, that's not what it is. It means living out what we're going to get into, a family resemblance. And then a couple of things over here. Leviticus 19:2 says, "Be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy." And Ephesians 1:4 says, "God chose us to be holy and blameless in his sight." So, we're going to be reading from two passages tonight. The first passage is Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. And like I said, Mata shared this verse actually this morning. I hope you guys took a chance to read it. It's a very well-known verse, if anyone wants to read it. Yeah. Amen. So a couple things to kind of just point out before we get into the questions. There's that word therefore there, right? Do you guys know what that is used for in the English language? When would you say therefore? Yeah, so to kind of understand, therefore, right, you gotta need to know what comes before, and that's Romans. Now we're not going to go through all of Romans, but essentially, therefore, in view of God's mercy, holiness from what God has done, Romans 1 through 11, talking about sin, talking about salvation, talking about the Spirit. So it's a response to mercy. Offer your bodies. When you look at this, it means all of life is worship. All of what you're doing, it's 24/7. It's not just something you do one day out of the week. It's not something that you do 2 days out of the week, or Sunday and then Tuesday evening or whatnot. Living sacrifice. Do you know where else in the Bible it talks about sacrifices? The Old Testament, right? And what did they do with, what was a sacrifice? Yeah, but what does that mean to sacrifice? Give something up? Yeah, but what happened to the thing you were sacrificing? Died, right? Yeah, but one thing to keep in mind in this passage is that it says a living sacrifice, right? And not just a sacrifice. So what's that mean, to be a living sacrifice? Yeah, it's an ongoing thing, right? It's an ongoing daily thing. You're sacrificing and dying to your worldly things. Do not conform. What's that mean? Yeah, don't fall into, we're talking about that cookie cutter mold thing. Don't fall into the world's mold. Be transformed. Transformed. What's that word mean? Change. Exactly. That's actually the example I want to use. You guys know the word metamorphosis? Huh? Yeah, so it's more than just a small little change or something. It's not like, I changed my shirt and I've been transformed. No, the same way that a caterpillar can turn into a butterfly, like that level of transformance is a deep inner transformance, a deep inner change. And the renewing of your mind. What's that mean? Yeah. Exactly. Okay, the second passage we're going to read is from 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. Amen. A little bit different translation, some different words, but what does it mean to gird up the loins of your mind, to have your minds alert? Yeah. Tie up those loose thoughts that are just running around in your mind, the little different things that you're focusing on. Be ready for the action. Set your hope fully. What's that mean, to set your hope fully? Hmm? Yeah, an undivided focus on Christ's return. Do not conform to former desires. Yeah. And then be holy. What do you notice there? That's what? It's a command. It's not a maybe you should be holy or you should try to be holy, right? It says be holy. It's not optional. If God is your Father, holiness is that family resemblance that we're talking about. So we're going to do it a little bit different tonight because there's not too many, unless you guys want to split off in groups, or do you guys want to do it all as a group? Okay, we'll do it all together then. You guys want to split off in groups and do the questions? Okay, I've heard two people say they want to do it together. We can do it together then. Why? Which ones got messed up? I wonder who did that one. Nah, yes, that's my nicer. These ones, yeah. Nagitsas. Okay, what was the first question there? What are they? In Romans 12. Yeah, but what else? What's the negative one? Don't be conformed to the what? To the world. And instead what? By the renewing of your mind, right? So two clear commands right there. First, the negative, don't conform to the world. We just talked about that. What are examples? Again, what other things are we conforming to in this world? The way we act at work, at school, the way that we try to fit in with people, the way that we'll ignore certain conversations or not be part of them, not want to go against the flow, so to say, right? Like someone says something that you don't agree with, but instead, just, let it slide. I'm just going to keep going, or way that people interact. But do you guys only see that at school, or do you guys see that here at church? Do you see it within yourselves, with each other, how you treat one another? Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's all about audience, right? So are you, by what you're doing, are you bringing others to Christ, essentially, is the thing. So let me kind of give you a scenario, one that actually happens with a lot of youths. I don't know if it happens too much with ours, but you guys know RBYA youth camps or summer camps. When I was living in California, I would talk to the people when they come back. And the number one thing they talk about all the time is all the theological debates that were happening at camp. So they would come back and they'd say, oh, this person said this and that person said this, and these two people were going back and forth and debating. But this debate turned into more than a debate. It's arguments, yelling, this and that. in those situations, right, like, what is the correct way to approach that? Right? You've got a whole audience of people, and you got some people that might not be saved. You got some people that are stronger Christians, some people that aren't Christians yet. And instead of confusion or causing confusion to one another, causing strife where people don't know, okay, is this the right way? Who's right? Is this person right? Is this person right? That could be handled differently. You could get together. You can sit down with the person that you're debating. You can say, hey, let's open the Bible together. Here's my viewpoint and here's your viewpoint. And let's just go through it and let's just figure out what the Bible's saying to us, right? And that would be, I would say, the correct way to handle it. And very similarly, right, like we're not called, even with, we weren't called to, like, argue with people, right? When we're talking about evangelism, when we come to someone, do we just start screaming at them and telling them, Jesus, or you're going to hell, this and that? Right? That's not what Jesus did, right? You talk to the person, you communicate. If they don't receive you, they don't want, then you can walk away from that versus causing like an argument. Transformation is different than conforming. Kind of like we talked about, transformation is like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And how does it start? Gets kind of alluded to this earlier. How does that transformation start? If you want to change and transform from, but what about the mind? Renewing your mind, right? And how can we renew our mind? What's that mean? Yeah, essentially, right? And what are the practical...
If you wanna, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
If you wanna open Philippians. Chapter 2, verse 5. Okay, let this mind be in you, which one? Okay, what that means? Yeah, start thinking like Jesus, right? Having in your thoughts the thoughts that Jesus had. So what Jesus were thinking about? If you go farther, verse 6 through, yeah, you can go to 12, you can see, who wants to read it from 6 to 12?
Who, being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross. Therefore God also has highly exalted him and given him the name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of those in heaven and of those on earth and of those under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Therefore, my beloved, as you have
Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good, and report if there is any virtue, if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Yeah. Yeah. So those are the things that we're supposed to be thinking about, right? So one thing, an often mistake, it's not just about fixing a behavior. So getting back to this transformation. So I was going to give you guys another example. How many of you guys have ever switched from like an iPhone to an Android, or an Android to an iPhone? Anyone? Some people. So it's not that it just looks different, right? The whole thing is different. The way that it operates is different. The whole, again, maybe this is too technical, but like its whole operating system, the whole way that it thinks and does things is completely different than what you had before. So it's not just like a change in color or something like that. It's a full transformation. It's completely different. And Paul says transformation starts with God changing what? Our hearts and our minds. A lot of times we think that we can do it by ourselves. You know, I've talked about this in other nights when we've talked about it, but one of the constant things the devil will say to you is, oh, you can't come to God right now because you're in this sin. Oh, I need to fix myself and then I can go to God. I need to stop sinning and then I can go talk to God. Or, oh, I sinned, how can I possibly talk to God again? You know, like I did this thing over and over again, and the devil's going to keep putting it into your mind that you can't come to God until you fix this thing. But we're not called to fix it on ourselves, right? So transformation comes from God and His mercy and His Spirit. So the second question in 1 Peter, the passage we read from there, what reason does Peter give for why we should be holy? Because God is holy. Yeah? So, in other words, the reason we live differently is because God Himself, Jesus, lived differently. Holiness means being set apart, belonging to Him. This theme of family, right? Think about kids. Think about your siblings, your parents. Do any of you guys look like your brother or sister other than Tim? Do you guys look like your parents, do you think? Sometimes? So if we look like our earthly parents, shouldn't we look like our Heavenly Father? Shouldn't we imitate and be set apart, be different? My wife was just telling me, or someone was telling me, I maybe saw it on Instagram or something, exactly of that thing where it was showing like all these people that like will post Bible verses or talk about, not really talk, but post Bible verses, post like something in their bio, but then their lifestyle, and it's like worldly people. I don't know the names, but it's like people that you just look at and you know that these people are not Christians by the way that they look, by the way they act. But then they'll do exactly that. They'll have a Bible passage in their bio. So how can we be different than those people? How can we be more than just someone that has a Bible passage in our bio Or maybe, I go to school and on my binder it says, Jesus is Lord, or I love Jesus, or something like that. But then from there, nothing.
Because I think, like, for example, I was at this community college, and when I attended there, we would have conversations, and they would cuss a lot of times, but I would cuss and they asked me, and I would tell them that I don't cuss, I'm a Christian. But over time, if I would have continued cussing and I would say I'm a Christian, that wouldn't affect them much. But because I wouldn't cuss, then it was because of the way I lived. People listen more to your actions than what you say. So you can say a lot of things, but if you're trying to be an example, they will listen more to your actions. So what happened was when I was around those people that would cuss around my instructor, and they would look back and be like, man, Timmy, I'm so nervous cussing around you. And stuff like that. I can see in their face also a lot of times. And it slowed down around me, they wouldn't cuss, and that also affected them wanting to be more like a Christian.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to tell you guys and keep telling you guys, when you get into the workplace, I mean, if you go, other than if you're working with all your friends doing electrical, then maybe everyone's really holy and doesn't cuss, but maybe there's other people there from others, like someone hits their finger with the hammer or something, how they react. But I mean, like in the workplace, like where I work, everyone cusses. It's that's just their language. They don't see anything wrong with that. And you guys probably know that already at school. And what I'm trying to say is it doesn't change once you get out of school. Like you think, oh, you go into a professional setting of some sort and people aren't going to do that. No, they still do it. And if you don't use that kind of language, that is a big thing that will set you apart in this world right off the bat. And people will ask. I've been asked multiple times, like, why don't you ever cuss? Or why don't you say that? Or why, Or if you tell someone, hey, don't cuss around me, then all of a sudden it's like, why not? What do you mean? Like, I'm just talking. And they do. They start to act differently around you. They, whether they know so or not, they might not be using those words. Now they're thinking of something like that. I was going to give an example that just happened that I found out about today at work. This guy that I work pretty closely with at work, he's what's called a process engineer. So when you make a design, he then takes that design and tries to figure out the process that's going to make it. So he works in the shop and with the equipment and stuff like that. And he got fired yesterday. And I called him. I didn't know until I got told today, and I called him and was just trying to figure out what happened. And he said that he was very stressed out. He was getting upset with a piece of equipment that wasn't working. He was trying to figure something out, put something, it wasn't working. And what did he do? No, it's a big piece of equipment. He got upset. He slammed his hand on the control thing, broke something, started cussing and just cussing at the machine, at something that's not even alive, just yelling cuss words, which brought people over, and then he kicked the machine, and people saw. I mean, we laugh, but because of that action, because of that one thing that he did, he no longer has a job today. This happened last Tuesday. Someone reported him on Wednesday. Thursday, HR called him in, told him you're suspended until further review. Monday, he was fired. That's it. That quickly, right? Like, your life can change because of the way that you acted in that one instance, the way that, and the funny thing is, a lot of people would have done the same thing. But how do you react in those situations? I've worked many times with him, and not that I want to say, I never get upset or something like that, but you're never going to hear me cussing at a machine or kicking and screaming or something like that. And you can show a difference. You can talk to these people and different things. But again, that was just something that literally I just found out about before I came here. And it just goes to show how you live with the world, and the world will be quick to reject you, even though you're doing everything that everyone else is doing, right? Everyone else cusses. Everyone else gets angry. Everyone else does. But as soon as you do it in a way that you're not supposed to, there's no grace, there's no forgiveness, there's no, oh, I understand that you're being overworked. I understand that it's not working work with you. That's it. Anyways, question 3, we're kind of getting, the first 2 questions were about some observations that we saw in the text, and the next few questions are about interpretation. We already kind of went over this one a few times already, but what does conforming to the world look like for youth today, for teenagers today, specifically? Yeah. Maybe gossiping with one another, cussing, hiding your faith. We kind of talked about that. Like when people are saying things, not about like false things about Christians or something, or whatever it may be. Are you kind of just hiding that you're a Christian? You don't want to go against the flow. Maybe you want to be popular. Maybe you're doing what the popular kids are doing. Maybe you are making compromises when it comes to relationships, right? You guys maybe are starting to date. Maybe you like someone, and maybe you're compromising because that person wants you to do something that you know isn't right. Yeah, 1 John chapter 2. Chapter 2, 15 and 17. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world is passing away and the lust of it, but he who does the will of God abides forever. Right? So, what's that kind of leading to? So kind of talking about what we've been talking about. Why do people conform? Yeah, because we love the world, right? Like, we want to be what the world thinks is successful. We want to be what the world thinks is good. We want to succeed in ways that we think the world wants us to succeed, right? So that's kind of just what I'm getting to over there. Going along with what everyone else is doing just so that you can fit in. It's kind of like a chameleon for on the types of animals, birds, insects, things. So what does a chameleon do in its environment? Yeah, it just blends in, right? It changes its colors wherever it's at and just blend it in with the background. No one knows that I'm different. I'm not standing out. No one's going to ask me questions. But God calls us to stand out. Philippians 2 says we should shine like the stars in the world. What would you guys say is the biggest kind of like mold at school right now? Like, what's everyone doing at school right now? Slang? How they speak? Like the 6, 7? Employed. What else? What do you guys notice? Like your friends group, what is something, like what's the number one thing going on right now? Basketball.
Cussing is big. There's a lot of cussing, even in our youth,
I want to challenge you guys to try to figure those things out. If you can't point out or you can't think of something, then a lot of times that might be because we're doing those things as well. So, see how you can set yourself apart by noticing what the other people are doing. Why does Paul say transformation starts with the renewing of the mind instead of just, changing your behavior? Yeah. So the way that I was looking at it is, kind of thinking about like the things that you think about constantly are the things that you do. It's the things that, in lack of better words, are the things that you love, the things that are constantly on your mind that you then end up doing. So when you just change a behavior, you're saying, okay, I'm not going to do this, but in your mind, you're thinking of how you would do it or how you would enjoy doing it or something. So you see how that's not really changing who you are. You're just maybe controlling an urge in that instant in time. So it's not going to last. It's like painting over mold on a wall. Or, a quick fix on something that's cracking. What happens after a little bit of time? Yeah, so at our work, we redid the whole building. They like redid the floors, redid the ceilings, redid the walls. But in one area, they came in and there was cracking. So they just kind of went in with like, I don't know, plaster or whatever. And it's concrete walls, so I don't know what they did. They put something up and then they painted it. And this was during like early summer. And then it started raining. Like a month ago, it started raining. We got like a week of rain. And what do you think happened? It just cracked all over again. It was literally pouring water in because all they did was just, I'm going to put some like foam over here and then tape over it, paint over it, and it's done. So it's similar. If we're not getting to the root of the problem, then it's just going to crack open and we're going to do it again. And going back, you already mentioned the reference, Philippians 4:8. Thinking on what is true, right? All those things that are there, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report. These are the things that we're called to be thinking about, and that's where the transformation starts, if you're thinking on all of these things. How does God's holiness define what holiness should look like in our lives? That's kind of a like how does God's example of holiness define what holiness should look like in our life? So how does God's example of holiness define holiness the way that it should? So like, essentially, how would you define God's holiness? What's his example of holiness? Yeah, exactly. He sent Jesus down, who didn't consider it robbery to, take the form of a person, kind of the verse that Gitz was talking about earlier. Verse 2. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of bondservant, coming in the likeness of man. Humbled himself, became obedient to the point of death on the cross, and just all the things that we've been talking about, right? God's what? Pure. He's loving. He's got justice. He's set apart. He's different. So, holiness is not, and I mentioned this before, and it's a common thing where people think, I'm holy, and that means I'm I'm isolated from everything, right? Or maybe you think, oh, that's weird, or that means you're kind of like an outcast. You're like that weird kid in school that no one wants to talk to, or something like that. But that's not what it means to be holy. Kind of think about a diamond, right? It shines bright, like it's something unique, like it's not this awkward thing or whatever. It's like when someone sees it, they want it, like they want to, same thing, the way that we should be such a bright presence, like people want to get to know you, want to know, like, why is your life different? Like, what are you doing in life? Like, why are you happy when everyone else is depressed? Like, how can you manage this when everyone else is, freaking out, or stressed, or work, or whatever it may be? Somehow you're doing all right and everyone else is like crumbling beside you. And people want to come and talk to you and find out what's going on. We're reflecting God's character so people can see him in us. If people looked at your life, would they see any of God's character? If someone looked at your life right now, what would they see most clearly? During your best time of day. What do you think still needs to be worked on? Hebrews 12:14, without holiness no one sees the Lord. Why is holiness connected to hope in Jesus' return? Yeah, imagine you're like prepping for something, like an event, or maybe your friend is coming over, or not just like your friend, but like someone that maybe you hold in high. Yeah, sure, like your pastor's coming over. You know the pastor's coming over, or yeah, the pastor says tonight, hey, I want to come to your house tomorrow, and I want to sit down in your room and talk. What are you going to do tonight? You're going to clean, right? I mean, maybe your room is perfectly clean, so you don't have anything to worry about. But that's kind of what this is talking about. We're setting our hope fully on Jesus' return. So when you're anticipating something, you're doing something about it, right? You're preparing, you're shaping the way that you live so that you can be presented well, right? Essentially. So same thing. If you knew someone was coming to your house tonight, you'd clean up, you'd prepare. Knowing that Jesus is coming back should change how we live today. Not in fear, but in readiness, being ready, living in joy. So again, I'm going to ask, if you knew that Jesus was coming tomorrow, say, or next week, so that you guys have more time to prepare, what's the one thing in your life that you'd want to change right now? What's the one thing that you think that you would want to be able to show God? So, in a way, our future shapes our present because we have hope of Jesus' return that's shaping the way that we live our life today. 1 John 3:2-3 is that hope in Christ. Hope in Christ so that we can purify ourselves. Let me just go to it. John 3. Beloved, now we are children of God, and it has not yet been revealed what we shall be, but we know that when he is revealed, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is, and everyone who has this hope in him purifies himself just as he is pure. Okay, going into the last few questions. Application. Think about where you feel the most pressure to fit in today? Do you guys ever fall for peer pressure? You know, a really popular, I would say strong Christian fell for peer pressure. Do you guys know who it was? Yeah, but someone that actually was with Jesus. Peter. Maybe Judas. Judas. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he fell into peer pressure or what the situation was in there. But one very clear example of like essentially falling into peer pressure, being next to a group is Peter. And when was it? Yeah. So when they asked him how many times, are you with that person? Are you? 3 times, right? So even he felt the pressure. He felt the peer pressure around everyone there, like watching what's going on. And I don't want to be the one that's set apart. I don't want to be known as being acquainted to this person. It's essentially the same thing. He's around other people that are maybe ridiculing, mocking, saying things, and then someone points out, oh, you were with him. I don't know, like, hey, don't look at me. I'm kind of pulling out. So if that could happen to someone that was with Jesus, do you think it can happen to us? Yeah, let's be real about it. Let's be honest about it. Like, this happens. It's not something that we got to pretend never happens. I feel like a lot of times we try to give off this persona of, oh, I'm so holy, like I never fall for anything, right? Like I never fall into peer pressure. I never sin. I never do anything because God forbid someone knows that you sinned. We all sin. We all fall short, right? And instead of helping one another when we see someone else sin, we tend to beat them up or ridicule them or push them down or, oh, look at you, blah, blah, blah. Kind of going back to conversation before, right? So like when you're working with someone and it's like another Christian, right, fell or sinned, it's like, are you going to help them get up? Are you going to help them continue on the path? Or are you going to just jump in and start to point everything out? We're supposed to fight that peer pressure, though. When it comes, we're supposed to be set apart. And whatever you feel is that strongest pressure, just ask God for help with it. The next question, what's one area where God is calling you to live differently this week? Again, holiness is practical. It's not just a big idea. We've already talked about it. It could be your speech. It could be the media that you watch. It could be how you treat your friends, how you treat your siblings, how you treat your parents. Could be about your integrity. Some of you guys are in school. Are you cheating? Are you copying off your friends? Are you actually learning the material? And it's like, oh, hey, someone got the answer key from the teacher and they start passing that around. You fall, that's peer pressure also. Those simple things that everyone's doing it, right? It's simple things even like that. Has anyone ever run a marathon? Not yet? You want to run a marathon? Do you think anyone can just get up and run a marathon? Yeah? Yeah. Well, that's what I was getting to. That was something I read about too. So, just like that, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. In a marathon, you can't just up and jump into and I'm going to complete it and then look, I was successful. You know, maybe you can start and maybe you can walk the whole thing, but there's still some requirements on the time you got to finish. So anyways, the same way that we're called to live differently doesn't mean that it's got to be this immediate thing, right? Where I need to do everything absolutely right, and then you get into this idea of I need to be absolutely perfect. If I'm not perfect, then I failed, and you start to go down that rabbit hole. You can start with steps. Start simple. Start every day. Like, are you guys reading in the morning? Are you guys taking that time to set your mind on what? On God, right? Like, how can we say that we want to set our mind or be renewed by be transformed by the renewing of our mind if we're not changing what our mind is focused on, right? It's kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago, just saying, okay, like, I'm going to be a better Christian. I'm not going to do this thing. What are you replacing that with? What are you replacing those thoughts with? To just say, oh yeah, I'm not going to think like that anymore. Well, is your mind just going to be blank? No, like, you got to replace that with something, and you can't replace that with something if you're not in the Word, if you're not listening to sermons, if you're not listening to worship music, you know, all those things can help. So maybe it's on your drive to work, you know, instead of listening to secular music or whatever it may be that you listen to, maybe you replace that with Christian music. Maybe you replace that once a week with a sermon. So that way you can replace what your mind's currently thinking on with something new. Does it make sense? How can you support each other in choosing holiness? Yeah. Yeah, we can't do it alone. Hebrews 10 says we're supposed to stir one another up in love and good works. You know, we're all at different levels, right? Maybe someone's a new Christian. Maybe someone's an older Christian. Maybe someone's been able to go through certain life experience that another person hasn't gone through yet. Maybe you see situations differently. Again, how do we help each other through these situations? You know, it's one thing to call someone out for a sin, and even that we should do in a way where we keep in mind our own sin that we have in our lives, right? Because we're all sinners, and there's a Bible verse on that as well. But helping build each other up, helping when one person falls to keep going. You know, I keep telling you guys, bring your friends back to youth. It seems like, oh, you know, they got school this day, and then they got school another day. And before you know it, it just starts to get habit. You start to get in the habit of, I haven't been for this long. And it's like, I can't be everywhere. I try to text some people. I'm sure Modest tries to text some people. But at the end of the day, we can't get to everyone all the time, right? Everyone's busy. Everyone's got lives, got work, got jobs, right? But this is where we got to help each other. If you see someone, your friend, they're not coming to youth, they're not coming to church, they're not participating or whatever, encourage them to come. Hey, do you need me to pick you up? Hey, don't forget we got youth. Hey, let's do this. Like, those are other ways. Sending each other Bible verses, encouraging each other, whether you work together, whether you go to school together, whether you don't, just through all those different things. Kind of as a conclusion, I don't have question 10 here, but we live in a world that's obsessed with fitting in, with being like everyone else, with not wanting to stand apart. God calls us to stand apart. And when we talked about the obedience, that means putting off our old self and putting on a new self, replacing our sinful habits with spirit-filled ones. So again, taking that bad thing and replacing it with a good thing. And tonight, we went deeper. Reason behind that is because we belong to a holy God. We are his children, and we're meant to look like him. By his mercy, we offer our whole selves to him. By his Spirit, our minds are renewed and transformed. And when our hope is fixed on Christ's return, it makes us live differently. We're not called to blend in with the world, but we're called to be a shining star. We're called to be God's people for his glory in this world. So this week, I want to encourage you guys, read Romans 12, 1 through 2. Read this 1 Peter 1, 13 through 15 again. And just write out a prayer. Write something that God can work on in your life this week. God, what can I transform? What can I set my mind on? What things am I setting my mind on that I don't want to set on? What are the things that I'm doing at school, at work, that are making me go along with everyone else, and what are the things that we can change? And then at night, have a time of just reflection of how the day went, how you interacted at school. Really try to think about ways that you could have shared the gospel more, shared with people. I don't want to say it's like meditation, but it's good reflection both in the morning and at night to just take into account what's happened throughout the day. Where are the places that, God, I've sinned, forgive me, help me correct my ways or whatnot. So that's what I just wanted to encourage you guys with, and that's the end of the message. So if you guys want to stand, we'll pray. Whoever wants to pray, I'll close, and then we'll do announcements.